My hands were trembling so badly, I nearly dropped my coffee mug. 4 missed calls from Patricia, my accountant of 23 years. Then a text message that stopped my heart cold. Harold, do not sign anything today. Call me immediately. It's about your son. I was standing in my kitchen in Scottsdale, Arizona, about to drive to my son Kevin's house for his 42nd birthday dinner. He'd been so persistent all week. Dad, you have to come. Melissa's making your favorite ribeye. The kids have been asking about you nonstop. How could I refuse that? But Patricia's message changed everything. I set down the mug on the granite countertop, the one my late wife Barbara and I picked out together when we renovated this house 15 years ago. She would have known exactly what to do. She always had better instincts about people than I did. But pancreatic cancer took her 3 years ago, and I'd been stumbling through life alone ever since. I dialed Patricia's number with shaking fingers. Harold. Her voice was tight, professional, but underneath I could hear something I'd never heard from her before. Fear. Where are you right now? Are you alone? I'm at home. Patricia, what's going on? You're scaring me. Good. Stay there. Lock your doors. I'm coming over with my husband. Richard's a retired FBI agent, Harold. You're going to need both of us for what I have to tell you. 40 minutes later, Patricia and Richard sat across from me at my dining table. Patricia spread documents between us, like evidence at a crime scene. Harold, 5 days ago, your son Kevin filed paperwork with the Maricopa County Superior Court. She paused, her eyes meeting mine with something that looked like pity. He's petitioning to have you declared mentally incapacitated. He wants to become your legal conservator and take control of all your assets. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually felt the room spin. That's insane. I'm 68 years old, not 98. I still manage my own restaurant. I drive myself everywhere. I just passed my FAA medical exam last month to keep my pilot's license. My voice was rising, panic seeping in. Why would Kevin do this? Patricia slid another document toward me. Because of this, your house is currently valued at approximately $3.2 million. Your restaurant, Morrison Steakhouse, is worth around $2.8 million with the real estate and business combined. Your investment accounts total just over $4 million. Your total estate is valued at approximately $11 million. I knew I was comfortable. Barbara and I had worked hard our whole lives. I started as a line cook at 19, saved every penny, opened my first restaurant at 32, built it into a local institution over 36 years. But hearing it laid out so clinically, so targeted, Kevin knows about the restaurant's value, I said slowly. We talked about it last Thanksgiving. He joked that I should sell and finally enjoy retirement. It wasn't a joke, Harold. Richard leaned forward, his FBI training evident in his direct manner. We've been doing some digging. Your son and his wife are in catastrophic financial trouble. He opened a laptop and turned it toward me. 3 years ago, Kevin convinced Melissa to co-sign on a luxury home in Paradise Valley. $1.4 million mortgage. Then he invested heavily in a friend's cannabis dispensary venture that went bankrupt. They lost $650,000. Their twins are enrolled at Brophy Prep. That's $42,000 a year in tuition. Their credit card debt alone is over $200,000. I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. How do you know all this? Because their financial situation is part of their court petition, Patricia explained. They're arguing that they need to protect your assets from your declining mental state before you make irresponsible decisions with your money. And Harold? She looked at me with something like grief. They've been building a case against you for at least 8 months. Richard showed me the evidence. Photos of me at Fry's grocery store, apparently looking confused in the produce aisle. I was just trying to remember if Barbara used Roma or San Marzano tomatoes in her sauce recipe. A statement from their family doctor, Dr. Williams, noting that I'd seemed disoriented and confused during a routine checkup. I'd had food poisoning that week and hadn't slept in 2 days. A recorded phone conversation where I allegedly couldn't remember my granddaughter's birthday. I was in the middle of a lunch rush at the restaurant with the kitchen hood fans blaring. I couldn't hear anything. 3 separate incidents where I'd gotten lost driving home. I was taking scenic routes to clear my head, something I'd done for 40 years. Every normal moment of a busy man's life twisted into evidence of mental decline. But this is fraud, I said, my voice hollow. This is elder abuse. Yes, it is, Richard confirmed. And unfortunately, Harold, it's becoming an epidemic. Adult children going after their parents' estates while they're still alive. The courts are overwhelmed with these cases. Patricia closed her laptop. The hearing is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. They moved fast, probably hoping to catch you off guard before you could mount a defense. What happens if they win? Kevin becomes your legal conservator. He controls your bank accounts, your investments, your properties. He can sell your restaurant, sell your house, move you into a care facility, make all your medical decisions. Richard's voice was grave. You'd essentially lose your autonomy completely. And Harold, based on their debt situation, I'd estimate your restaurant would be listed for sale within 60 days. The restaurant where I'd proposed to Barbara, where we'd held our wedding reception, where I'd taught Kevin to make his first omelet when he was 8 years old, where Barbara spent her last healthy Christmas dancing with me in the empty dining room after closing. They can't do this, I whispered. Kevin wouldn't. He's my son, my only child. I'm sorry, Harold, but the evidence says otherwise. Patricia's voice was gentle but firm. They've been planning this carefully. They started documenting things right after Barbara passed, when you were grieving and distracted. They've been building a narrative. I remembered Kevin insisting on coming to my doctor's appointments after Barbara died, how he'd started asking pointed questions about whether I was sleeping okay, eating right, keeping up with the restaurant, how Melissa had suggested I should take it easy and maybe let Kevin help with the business finances. She was gathering ammunition. He was positioning himself. What do I do? I felt lost, betrayed, enraged, and terrified, all at once. Richard straightened up, his expression shifting from sympathetic to strategic. We fight back. But Harold, I need to know, are you prepared for what this might mean? This isn't just a legal battle. This is going to tear your family apart permanently. I thought about Kevin as a little boy, how he'd follow me around the restaurant kitchen, standing on a milk crate to reach the prep counter, how he'd cried at Barbara's funeral, holding on to me like I was his anchor, how he'd told me he loved me just last Sunday. But then I thought about what he was trying to do now, the calculated betrayal. The willingness to destroy his own father for money? Tell me what we need to do. Richard smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who'd spent 30 years hunting predators. First, we're going to document everything. Starting now, you're keeping a detailed journal. What you do every day, every decision you make at the restaurant, every coherent conversation. I want timestamps, details, proof that you're of sound mind. Okay. Second, we're getting you evaluated by an independent neuropsychologist, not your family doctor who they've already compromised, but a specialist in geriatric cognitive assessment, someone who can testify under oath that you're mentally competent. Done. Third, and this is crucial, Richard leaned forward. You cannot let them know that you know. You need to act completely normal. If they realize we're onto them, they might accelerate their plans, destroy evidence, or try something desperate. That birthday dinner invitation suddenly made horrible sense. They wanted me there tonight for a reason, didn't they? I suspect they planned to have you sign something. Maybe a power of attorney document slipped in among birthday cards. Just some routine estate planning, Dad. Or they might have staged an incident to record. Look how confused Grandpa got at dinner. The manipulation was breathtaking. 8 months of planning, 8 months of pretending to be the loving son while building a case to steal everything I'd worked for. How could he do this to me? The words came out broken, and I realized tears were streaming down my face. 68 years old, and my own son had reduced me to this. Patricia put her hand on my shoulder. Richard's seen this dozens of times, Harold. Money does something to people. Or maybe it just reveals who they were all along. Over the next 2 weeks, I followed their instructions to the letter. I kept detailed journals documenting everything. My morning routine, the staff meetings at the restaurant, menu decisions, vendor negotiations, supply orders. Every complex calculation and business judgment that proved my mind was sharp as ever. I met with Dr. Rebecca Thornton, a neuropsychologist at Mayo Clinic Scottsdale who specialized in cognitive evaluations for legal cases. She put me through 6 hours of rigorous testing over 3 sessions. "Mr. Morrison," Dr. Thornton said after our final session, "I can state with complete professional certainty that you show 0 signs of cognitive decline, dementia, or mental incapacity. Your memory is excellent. Your executive function is above average for your age group. Your reasoning and judgment are exceptional." She smiled. "Frankly, you're sharper than most 50-year-olds I evaluate. Whatever case they're trying to build against you has no medical basis whatsoever." But the hardest part was pretending everything was normal with Kevin. He called me the day after the birthday dinner I'd missed. "Dad, I was worried about you. You never showed up. Are you feeling okay?" "I'm so sorry, son." The word tasted like ash in my mouth. "I had a bad migraine. You know how they hit me sometimes. Couldn't even get out of bed." "Oh, Dad, you should have called." Melissa was so worried. "Listen, the reason I wanted you there." He paused. "We have some documents we need you to look at. Just some estate planning stuff. Making sure everything's organized. You know, just in case." He was still trying. Even with a court date approaching, he was still trying to get me to sign something. "That sounds smart, Kevin. Let me think about it." "Don't think too long, Dad. These things are time-sensitive. You never know what might happen." Was that a threat? I couldn't even tell anymore. "Sure, son. We'll talk soon." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake in the bed I'd shared with Barbara for 37 years, staring at the ceiling, wondering where I'd gone wrong. Had I spoiled him? Had I not taught him the value of hard work? Had Barbara and I given him too much too easily? 3 days later, my granddaughter Emma called me. She was 17, a junior at Xavier Prep, the brightest and kindest soul I'd ever known. She reminded me so much of Barbara it sometimes took my breath away. "Grandpa, can I come over? I need to talk to you. Alone. Please." "Of course, sweetheart. Is everything okay?" "Just, please. I'll be there in 20 minutes." She arrived with red-rimmed eyes, clutching her phone like a lifeline. She looked terrified. "Grandpa, I need to show you something, but you have to promise you won't tell Mom and Dad that I told you." My heart sank. "Emma, what is it?" "I heard them talking last week. In Dad's office. They didn't know I was home early from volleyball practice. I recorded it on my phone." Her voice cracked. "I know it's wrong to spy, but after I heard what they were saying, I thought you deserved to know." She hit play. Kevin's voice filled my kitchen, cold and businesslike in a way I'd never heard before. "The hearing is in less than 3 weeks, Mel. We've got Dr. Williams' statement. We've got the photos. We've got everything documented. Morrison's is a retired FBI agent's dream payday. That place has been printing money for 30 years. Melissa's voice responded, "What if your dad fights it? He's stubborn." "With what?" "We've been systematic. Every forgotten detail, every moment of confusion, every time he seemed tired or distracted. The judge will see a clear pattern of decline. And even if he contests it, legal fees will drain his accounts. By the time it's resolved, there won't be much left to fight over anyway. And when we win, the restaurant goes on the market immediately. Even in this economy, we'll clear at least $2 million after paying off the business debts. The house, probably another 2.5. That wipes out our debt, covers the kids' college funds, and gives us a fresh start. What about your dad? Where will he live?" A pause. Then Kevin's voice, colder than I'd ever imagined possible. "There's a memory care facility in Mesa, much cheaper than keeping him in that house. He'll be fine. He probably won't even understand what's happening soon enough anyway." "Kevin, that's your father. That's $11 million, Mel. 11 million, that's just sitting there while we're drowning. He's 68. He's had a good life. Time for him to pass the torch." The recording ended. Emma was crying now, silently, tears streaming down her face. "Grandpa, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to do. I love you so much. And they're talking about you like you're already dead, like you're just a number on a balance sheet." I pulled my granddaughter into my arms. This brave, beautiful girl who'd chosen her grandfather over her parents, who'd risked everything to do the right thing. "You did the right thing, Emma. You did exactly the right thing. I'm so proud of you. Are they really going to take your restaurant? The place where Grandma. She couldn't finish the sentence. Not if I can help it, sweetheart. Not if I can help it. I called Richard immediately. When he heard the recording, he was silent for a full minute. Harold, this changes everything. This is direct evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud and elder abuse. With this recording, we don't just defend against their petition. We go on the offense. What do you mean? I mean, we're filing a countermotion. Fraud. Conspiracy to commit financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Attempted theft. And Harold, his voice hardened, we're going to make sure every judge in Maricopa County knows exactly what your son tried to do. What about Emma? Will she have to testify? She may need to authenticate the recording. But I'll do everything I can to protect her. She's a minor, and she did the right thing. Any decent judge will see that. The hearing arrived faster than I was prepared for. I sat in the courtroom with Emma beside me, her hand gripping mine tightly. Across the aisle, Kevin and Melissa sat with their attorney, a slick-looking man in a $3,000 suit. Kevin wouldn't meet my eyes. Melissa looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Judge Anthony Reyes presided. He was in his late 50s, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that looked like they'd seen every kind of human depravity. Richard had told me Judge Reyes had no patience for elder abuse cases. He'd put his own mother in assisted living after she developed Alzheimer's, and had zero tolerance for families who preyed on their aging parents. Kevin's attorney went first, presenting their case methodically. The photos. Dr. Williams' notes. The documentation of my supposed decline. He painted a picture of a tragic situation. Your Honor, Mr. Morrison is clearly in the early stages of cognitive decline. His son, Mr. Kevin Morrison, is simply trying to ensure that his father's substantial estate is protected and managed responsibly before Mr. Morrison makes decisions that could jeopardize his own financial security and well-being. Then it was our turn. Patricia's husband, Richard, had connected us with one of the best elder law attorneys in Arizona, a woman named Sandra Chen, who'd made her career protecting seniors from predatory family members. Your Honor, I'd like to submit Dr. Rebecca Thornton's comprehensive neuropsychological evaluation, completed over 6 hours of testing just 2 weeks ago. She handed the report to the judge. He read it carefully, his expression unreadable. Dr. Thornton found no evidence whatsoever of cognitive decline. In fact, Mr. Morrison tested above average for his age group in every category: memory, executive function, reasoning, judgment. He continues to successfully operate a multi-million-dollar restaurant business, making complex decisions daily. She submitted additional documents. I'd also like to present evidence that Mr. Kevin Morrison and his wife have been systematically misrepresenting normal behaviors as evidence of incapacity. She dismantled their evidence piece by piece. The confusion at Fry's grocery store. Mr. Morrison was trying to remember a recipe his late wife used to make. The disorientation at Dr. Williams' office. Mr. Morrison had food poisoning and hadn't slept in 48 hours. The forgotten birthday. He was in the middle of a lunch rush at his restaurant with industrial kitchen equipment running. He couldn't hear the question. She turned to face Kevin directly. Every piece of so-called evidence in this petition is a normal moment in a busy person's life, deliberately twisted to support a predetermined narrative. But, Your Honor, most importantly, I have evidence of the true motive behind this petition. She played Emma's recording. In the silent courtroom, Kevin's voice echoed off the walls. Cold, calculating, discussing my estate like I was already in the ground. That's $11 million, Mel. $11 million. That's just sitting there while we're drowning. He's 68. He's had a good life. Time for him to pass the torch. There's a memory care facility in Mesa. He'll be fine. He probably won't even understand what's happening soon enough anyway. Judge Reyes' expression hardened with each word. When the recording ended, the courtroom was deathly silent. Sandra continued, Your Honor, this isn't a loving son protecting his father. This is a premeditated conspiracy to commit financial elder abuse. Kevin Morrison and his wife are in severe financial distress due to reckless spending and failed investments. They stand to gain over $11 million by having Mr. Morrison declared incapacitated. They've manipulated medical records, staged photographs, and constructed an entirely false narrative, all to steal their own father's life's work. Kevin's attorney stood quickly. Your Honor, this recording was obtained without my client's knowledge or consent. It should be inadmissible. In a criminal trial, perhaps, Judge Reyes cut him off, his voice like ice. But this is a civil conservatorship proceeding, and I am very interested in understanding the true motivations behind this petition. He turned to Kevin. Mr. Morrison, would you like to explain to this court why you're on tape discussing selling your father's restaurant and putting him in a care facility while he sits before me, clearly of sound mind? Kevin opened his mouth. No words came out. Your Honor, he finally managed, his voice cracking. That recording was taken out of context. We were just discussing hypothetical scenarios. Future planning. Hypothetical scenarios that include a specific facility in Mesa, a timeline for selling his restaurant, and calculations about paying off your debts. Judge Reyes leaned forward. Mr. Morrison, I've been on this bench for 22 years. I know financial elder abuse when I see it. And this is one of the most calculated, cold-blooded attempts I've encountered. He looked at the papers in front of him for a long moment. Then he looked directly at Kevin and Melissa, his expression one of barely contained contempt. I am dismissing this petition with prejudice, which means it cannot be refiled. Furthermore, I am issuing a protective order. Kevin Morrison and Melissa Morrison are prohibited from contacting Harold Morrison or coming within 500 feet of his residence or business for a minimum of 3 years. Kevin's face went white. I am also referring this case to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office for potential criminal charges, including conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, and filing a false court petition. He turned to me, his expression softening slightly. Mr. Morrison, I'm deeply sorry for what you've experienced. No parent should have to endure what your son has put you through. I'm ordering that all legal fees associated with your defense be paid by the petitioners. Additionally, I strongly recommend that you update your estate documents to protect yourself from any future attempts at manipulation. Melissa was sobbing now. Kevin sat frozen, staring at the table, his entire world collapsing around him. Dad, Kevin finally looked at me, desperation in his eyes. Dad, please. You have to understand. We were desperate. We didn't mean. I stood up slowly, Emma's hand still in mine. I looked at my son, my only child, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the young man I'd walked through his first heartbreak, the adult I'd helped buy his first house. I understand perfectly, Kevin. I understand that you were willing to destroy your own father for money. I understand that you saw me not as a person who loved you, who raised you, who would have given you anything you asked for, but as an asset to be liquidated. My voice broke, but I forced myself to continue. Your mother would be ashamed of what you've become, and so am I. Emma squeezed my hand. Grandpa, can we go home now? Yes, sweetheart. Let's go home. As we walked out of the courtroom, Sandra walked beside me. Harold, that was incredibly difficult. How are you feeling? I looked down at Emma, then back at the courtroom doors closing behind us. Honestly, like I've lost a son. But I've also learned that family isn't always blood. And not everyone with your DNA deserves your trust. I squeezed Emma's hand. I also learned that sometimes courage comes from the most unexpected places. That evening, sitting in my house in Scottsdale, I called Patricia. Patricia, I need to update my will. Everything. The restaurant, the house, the investments. I want to set up a trust for Emma's education and future. Kevin gets nothing. Not $1. Are you certain, Harold? That's a permanent decision. I'm absolutely certain. And I want the will to explicitly state why. I want it documented that Kevin attempted to have me declared mentally incompetent to steal my assets. So if he ever tries to contest it, any judge will know exactly what kind of person he is. Consider it done. One more thing. I want Emma protected. If Kevin and Melissa try to take any kind of retribution against her for testifying, we'll include provisions for that. She's a minor now, but we can structure the trust to ensure she's financially independent the moment she turns 18. They won't be able to touch her or her inheritance. 3 weeks later, Kevin and Melissa officially disowned Emma. They called her a traitor, a backstabber, said she'd destroyed their family for her inheritance. She was 17 years old, and her own parents had abandoned her for money. But I had a big house and a bigger heart. The guest room became her room. We established a new routine. Breakfast together before school, homework at the kitchen table, weekends helping me at the restaurant, learning the business from the ground up just like I'd once hoped Kevin would. She had Barbara's eyes, Barbara's kindness, Barbara's stubborn integrity, and now Barbara's home. 6 months later, Emma and I stood together in the restaurant after closing time. We'd just hung a new portrait of Barbara in the main dining room. It was from our 30th anniversary, taken right here at this very table. She was laughing at something I'd said, her eyes sparkling with that mischief I'd fallen in love with 40 years earlier. "Grandpa?" Emma asked, looking at the portrait. "Do you ever think about forgiving Dad?" I considered the question carefully. She deserved honesty, not platitudes. Forgiveness isn't about them, sweetheart. It's about not letting their actions poison whatever time I have left. Do I forgive what your father tried to do? No. Will I ever have a relationship with him again? I can't see how. I put my arm around her shoulders, but I refuse to spend my remaining years consumed by bitterness. I've got too much to live for. I looked around the restaurant, the tables where I'd served thousands of meals, the kitchen where I'd found my calling, the dance floor where I'd held Barbara one last time. And now I've got you to share it with. That's worth more than anything Kevin tried to take from me. I miss them sometimes, Emma admitted quietly. Not what they did, but who I thought they were. That's okay, sweetheart. Grief for who someone should have been is still grief. You're allowed to feel that. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. "Harold, thought you should know. The county attorney filed charges today. Kevin and Melissa both plead guilty to attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. 5 years probation, permanent record. Their careers are finished." I showed Emma the message. She read it, her expression unreadable. Is it wrong that I don't feel anything? No, honey. That's called protecting yourself. You feel what you feel. That night, after Emma finished her homework and went to bed, I sat alone in the dining room with a glass of bourbon. Barbara's portrait smiled down at me from the wall. "Well, Barb," I said softly, "I didn't see this coming. Our boy. I don't know where we went wrong." The portrait, of course, said nothing. But Emma, God, she's so much like you. The courage, the heart. She saved me, you know, just like you would have. I raised my glass to her image. I'm going to be okay. The restaurant's okay. Emma's going to be okay, I promise. A year later, I stood at the podium at Emma's high school graduation. She'd asked me to attend in place of her parents. She'd been accepted to Arizona State's Barrett Honors College, full scholarship. She wanted to study business, wanted to eventually take over the restaurant. "That's my granddaughter," I told the woman sitting next to me, tears in my eyes. "She's going to change the world." After the ceremony, Emma found me in the crowd and threw her arms around me. "Thank you, Grandpa, for everything." "Thank me? Sweetheart, you saved my life." "No." She pulled back, looking at me with those Barbara eyes. "You showed me what family really means. Not obligation, not blood, not what you can get from someone." She smiled. "Love, loyalty, showing up when everything falls apart." I thought about Kevin. The last time I'd seen him was in that courtroom. I'd heard through Patricia that he and Melissa had divorced, that he was working at a car dealership now, that he'd tried to call me once, and Patricia had intercepted it. I didn't want to hear what he had to say. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. But standing here with Emma, watching her walk into her future, I realized something important. Kevin had tried to take everything from me. My restaurant, my house, my money, my dignity, my independence. But what he'd actually done was show me what really mattered. Not the $3.2 million house, though I was grateful to keep it. Not the restaurant worth millions, though it remained my pride and joy. Not the investment accounts or the pension. What mattered was standing right in front of me, wearing a graduation cap, ready to take on the world. Family wasn't about blood or obligation or inheritance. It was about the people who stood by you when everyone else walked away. It was about a 17-year-old girl who risked everything to do the right thing. It was about second chances and new beginnings and building something beautiful from the ashes of betrayal. Barbara used to say that people show you who they really are when there's something to lose. Kevin showed me he was willing to sacrifice his father for financial security. But Emma showed me that courage and integrity and love can still exist in this cynical world. I'm 69 years old now. I've learned more in the past 18 months than I did in the previous 6 decades. I've learned that trust must be earned, not assumed. I've learned that the people who claim to love you the most can sometimes be the ones plotting your destruction. I've learned that real love isn't what you say. It's what you do when no one's watching. It's the choices you make when everything's on the line. Most importantly, I've learned that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. That vulnerability isn't weakness. That asking for help takes courage. That fighting back against those who would exploit you isn't vindictive. It's survival. To anyone out there who might be facing something similar, hear me clearly. If someone in your family is trying to declare you incompetent, to take control of your life, to steal what you've worked your entire life for, fight back. Get a lawyer. Document everything. Trust your instincts. And remember that you have value beyond your bank account, worth beyond your assets, dignity that no one has the right to take. You're not crazy. You're not confused. You're not paranoid. If someone is systematically trying to undermine your competence, it's because they want something from you, not for you. And to any adult child of an aging parent reading this, let me be absolutely clear. Your inheritance is not yours until it's yours. Your parents don't owe you their house, their savings, their life's work. They earned it. They decide what happens to it. And if you try to take it through manipulation, through legal tricks, through calculated betrayal, you might win the money. But you'll lose something far more precious. You'll lose yourself. Kevin got 8 months of planning, countless hours of scheming, and potentially millions of dollars. What did it cost him? His father, his daughter, his marriage, his career, his reputation, his freedom. Was it worth it? I don't know. I'll never ask him, but I suspect in his quiet moments, in that small apartment he lives in now, working that sales job he hates, I suspect he knows the answer. As for me, I've got a granddaughter to mentor, a restaurant to run, a life to live. And every morning, when I wake up in the house Barbara and I built together, I look at her portrait and smile. We did good, Barb. Not with Kevin. We failed there somehow. But Emma? She's everything we hoped our family would be. The restaurant isn't just a business anymore. It's a legacy. It's where Emma learned to make her first sauce, where she'll eventually raise her own children, teaching them the same values Barbara and I tried to instill. Morrison's Steakhouse will stay in the family, just not the family Kevin imagined. And somehow, despite everything, that feels exactly right. Family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who shares your heart. And my heart belongs to a brave young woman who chose integrity over inheritance, loyalty over blood, and love over money. That's worth more than $11 million. That's worth everything.